Hey guys, Cam here from PhoneDog.com, and for the past couple of weeks I have been carrying this around. I've unboxed it, I have done 4K video tests on it, I have tested the camera and gone through all its features and also tested its waterproof capabilities, but now is the time for our full review. But before we get into that, I have to thank our friends over at Best Buy Mobile who often supply us phones to give away in our one-port bandit. You can spin to win free handsets. Check the link in the description box below and go over there and see if you can snag a handset for free. But let's get straight to the Sony Xperia Z2 and we'll go over the design first. It is a premium looking and feeling device, but it's not small. It's square, flat and slim, it's all metal and glass, and it measures in at 146.8 by 73.3 by 8.2 millimeters and measures in at 163 grams. And because it's square and flat, it does feel quite big in hand. It's also IP58 certified, waterproof and dustproof, but that means that there are these fiddly flaps on the top left and top right hand edges, which cover your ports and your micro SIM card slot and your micro SD card slot. The only buttons on the phone are all on the right hand edge. You have a power and lock key, which is easy to reach with your thumb, and also a volume rocker just below that, again easily reachable, and also a physical camera shutter key. And all you need to do to get your camera working is turn your handset into landscape mode, press the shutter button and you're straight into your camera. Now this does have very slightly rounded corners and also very slightly angled edges, chamfered edges, to make it slightly more comfortable in hand, but you still get this feel that it's a big square device. And also the glass on the top and the bottom does make it quite slippery. It's not a problem when you're holding it in your hand, but when you leave it on any surface, if it's slightly rounded, then you're more than likely going to end up with your phone falling off. But the glass does have its advantages. It is scratch resistant and shatter resistant. I haven't been that careful with how I've been treating this phone, and so far I still don't have even the tiniest marks on the glass anywhere. Also on the design front, we have a large LED notification light right on the top edge, and we also have two front-facing stereo speakers just buried underneath the top and the bottom edges of the phone. All in all, it is a very seamless design. It is beautiful, it looks great, and it feels very premium, and that's something that's going to do well for Sony. But let's get on to the main event, the 5.2-inch Full HD display with Sony's triluminous technology. Sony has often come into criticism in the past for the quality of its screens. Not that they're not sharp enough or have enough contrast, but when it comes down to viewing angles in the past, it's always been let down by the color accuracy. Thankfully, with the Xperia Z2, those problems seem to be gone. When you're staring at a white screen, it doesn't really what angle you're looking at it from, it still looks the same color as when you're looking at it head on. Obviously, you will lose some brightness, but that's to be expected from any display when you look at it from a steeper angle. And if you're not happy with the way it's looking, there is a settings option where you can change the white balance of the display to suit your needs. Overall though, the screen is very sharp, it's got really bright and vivid colors, and the contrast is generally quite good. The multimedia experience watching films or playing games on the phone is fantastic. And it's definitely up there with the top phones that are around at the moment. Now, I've touched on the camera in a lot more detail earlier this week, so I will kind of skim over this feature. But what I will say is that the camera has got a ton of really fun features. It's got great manual controls, a lot of cool features like background defocus, slow motion video, 4K video. It is a really great camera and it's 20.7 megapixels. What I have found is that for taking photos, the best results that you can get are when you set it to use 8 megapixels. It does a great job of picking up color and depth and contrast, and actually it's one of the best cameras on any phone that I've used in a long time. And I was really impressed particularly with the depth of field that this phone has. Even without the background defocus gimmicky effect on, it still produces some great results. And what I will say is that sometimes autofocus is a little bit slow, as is auto exposure, and when you're using panorama mode, unlike some other phones, it doesn't automatically adjust the exposure as you're going along the scene. So if you start in a dark place on the panorama, then you get to a much brighter part of the image. It won't adjust as it's going. It'll just overexpose the bright part and leave you with an image that doesn't look quite perfect. What I also found was that if you use the camera too much for a long time or a lengthy period at once, it will overheat and the camera will shut off. Now we get on to the sound performance of the phone, and this is where it's kind of a tale of two cities. It comes included with a great pair of in-ear headphones with digital noise cancelling. They work together with the processing in the phone to cancel noise and actually produce a really nice sound. It's got good tonal variety. You get the bass, you get the trebles, you don't get too much contrast here and there up the top end or the bottom end. It doesn't drown out the treble with the bass, and likewise it doesn't leave the bass hanging completely. It's not the best set of headphones I've ever used, but it's certainly one of the best I've ever used that come free with a phone. And then you couple that with the fact that you can actually change the audio equalization within the phone, then you can actually customize the sound to suit your own ears. But then we get onto the stereo front-facing speakers. Overall, they're good. For playing games or watching movies, the sound is actually really quite a decent quality. It's not the loudest I've ever used, and that causes some problems when it comes to notifications. Once my phone's in my pocket, I have often missed notifications because I haven't heard them, even though the sound's toned right up to the maximum. And when you compare the stereo speakers in the Z2 to the HTC One M8's boom sound speakers, there really is no comparison. The Sony speakers are quite a lot quieter, noticeably quieter. Performance and battery life, much like a lot of the other features in the phone, was one of those hit and miss things again. On a good day, the Sony Xperia Z2 was as quick and reliable as the best of them, but on a bad day it was quite different. Oftentimes when switching between apps, it wouldn't load the app that I've just touched to launch. It would load the last one and then take a second or two to then load the one that I wanted. And this can be a problem. It didn't happen all the time, and in most cases and in most days, the app switching and launching apps was pretty seamless and fast and reliable. So there was a tiny bit of lag here and there in responsiveness, but it wasn't enough to make me hate using the phone, or certainly wouldn't be enough to taint the experience of using the phone in a bad way. But one thing that does perform admirably is the battery. Most of the time I would get 2 days, almost 2 full days of use out of this battery without even trying. This was on days where I went out to test the camera for half an hour non-stop, days where I was playing videos, days where I was just communicating regularly like I would, because I've been using this as my daily driver for 2 weeks. And most of the time it would go a full 2 days without charging. If you do get to a point where you're not near a charger and your battery is running low, there is a power saving mode and also a stamina mode, which completely cuts all your connections and background data off until you open the phone to check it. But the battery on this thing is phenomenal. If I was to wrap it up and give my overall impressions, and to advise on whether or not you should buy this phone, what I would say is this: if you're in the market for a great Android phone that gives you that premium feel of the glass and the metal, but also has a great camera and great battery life, then the Xperia Z2 is certainly one you can consider. But right now, with availability being limited to just being able to buy it unlocked in the States, then it's going to be more of a question of availability rather than whether you should get it. But hopefully carriers will soon start to announce whether they're going to be launching it through them. Given all the little tiny faults that I find with it, that the actual overall experience and the look and the feel and the performance of the phone has been fantastic. And that's not something I could say about any of the previous versions of the Xperia phone. If you want to ask me any questions, you can do. I'm at phonedog_cam on Twitter. Use the comment section down below. Tell us what you think of your impressions. Tell us what your impressions are from watching any reviews, or if you've got your hands on the Z2, let us know how you feel. And of course, if you love it, don't forget to check out our official smartphone rankings over at phonedog.com, where you can vote for your favourite handsets and check out what the experts think. I will see you again soon.